Picture this. Your child is in the hospital, declared brain dead. The doctor says, according to their driver's license, they're an organ donor. But you've never talked about this as a family. In your grief and shock, what would you say?
Well, recently we watched this exact scenario play out on an HBO Max series called The Pitt. And it made us realize how a complex conversation with your kiddos could help in moments like this.
Today, we're talking about a hard conversation you might never want to have, but absolutely should. Welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago. We help families plan for their biggest life moments without feeling overwhelmed. Quick note, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. This episode is for educational purposes only, and we strongly recommend that you talk to your healthcare professionals or even your estate planning professional about your specific situation.
Here's today's essential question. What are your wishes for organ donation, and have you shared your wishes with your family?
So, like I said, we finished this HBO Max series called The Pitt. It is, how can I say this? Well, it's very graphic and it can be extremely traumatic to watch. So I definitely say adults only, maybe PG-13 plus.
Yeah.
And you probably don't want to be eating dinner when you start watching it because it is, again, a little graphic.
But it's incredibly realistic in showing what happens in emergency rooms. Season 1 represents one shift in the ER. The doctors and the families are faced with many impossible decisions.
So there's this one storyline that starts in episode 2. It continues through episode 8 about a young college student who was 19 years old, according to the show, and he was living at home. His mom found him in his bed unresponsive.
And it turns out he overdosed on Xanax laced with fentanyl. The parents had the doctors run every possible test, hoping there was some chance he could recover.
But in the end, tests showed that he was brain dead. Then the doctors and the transplant coordinator met with the family and mentioned that according to their son's driver's license, he was a registered organ donor.
When they asked the family about proceeding with organ donation, the mom immediately said no, and she was very upset.
And one can understand why. You're already dealing with the worst possible scenario, the worst possible news about your child. And now you're asked to make this huge decision when you're grieving and probably in shock.
Right. The doctors and staff left the family alone for a while to process everything.
But eventually the parents agreed to the organ donation process. And then there's this really cool scene when they're leaving the hospital with their son. The entire hallway is lined with the staff and his son's friends from college, all there to honor him in the decision he had made. And we learned that this is called an honor walk or a donor walk.
Right. But imagine if that family had talked about this beforehand. If the son had been able to say, if something like this ever happens, this is what I want. Maybe the end would have been a little bit easier for them.
But it wouldn't have had all that drama like the show had, you know.
True.
So that's actually what we want to talk about today. One of the many conversations that you probably have to have with your loved ones.
Because what we learned is if someone is registered as an organ donor, the family is informed of that decision. But if they're not registered, then the family does get asked to make that choice.
But even if someone is registered, studies show that families often don't know what their donors have signed up for. The actual donor making process, the signing up with your driver's license or other legal form, is a legally binding contract under the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act, UAGA. And many states have adopted this act. But with that, family members don't have the legal authority to revoke a donor's wish. It's called first person authorization. An organ donor may indicate their donation, like I said, on a driver's license, a donor card, or any other legally binding document. Even if the family objects, they can move forward with this organ donation. Now, in April of this year, 2025, Arkansas, their legislature actually passed an amendment to the revised Arkansas Anatomical Gift Act, adding a provision in which the next of kin can prevent their loved ones' organs from actually being harvested for donation, even if they registered as a donor. And sometimes organ procedure organizations will defer to family wishes because it's an emotional time.
So, having that conversation beforehand is what prevents families from being blindsided and having to guess what their loved one would want.
So we're thinking one way to approach this might be able to watch a show like The Pitt as a family. Uh, Obviously, adults only because of its content, and use it as a starting point for your kiddos. We've had that conversation with each other and with our kids, and then we played that through with my father when it was time for him to pass.
After each episode, you could pause and ask, what would you want in this situation? And then let everyone take a turn speaking. There's no judgment, you're just listening.
Yeah, being honest and clear with your intentions is always the right thing to do. Some people choose not to be organ donors for various personal reasons, and that's completely okay. The point is not to convince anyone either way, just honor their wishes.
Exactly. The point is that everyone gets to express their wishes clearly to their family so that everyone knows how to proceed if they're ever in that position.
Now, once you've had these conversations, highly recommend you document them. You can register as an organ donor, Department of Motor Vehicles, the DMV, when you get your driver's license.
Or if you prefer not to have it on your license for privacy reasons, you can include it in your advance directives.
But the goal here is just to make sure everybody knows what you want so that you don't have to guess, you don't have to wonder in this incredibly, I can only imagine, incredibly difficult moment.
Right. We've actually talked about organ donation before with some amazing guests if you want to learn more.
So in episode 9, we interviewed Rachel Quigley, who works for the Texas Organ Sharing Alliance, and she walked us through the whole process for the state of Texas.
And in episode 10, we featured Kim Perkins, who received a pancreas from a young man and meets with his mother every year to celebrate life.
In episode 41, we spoke with two incredible people, Dr. Brittany Claiborne and her son Micah. They both are heart transplant recipients who started transplant teens to help other teens navigate the experience of organ donation.
We'll link all those episodes in the show notes if you want to learn more about organ donation specifically.
So here's a call to action. What we're asking you to do is have that conversation. Pick a way to start it with your family. And the pit is a great way to do it. And if your child is getting their driver's license for the first time, explain everything that they have to do or the choices they have to make and how important they are.
Right. It's a great idea when they're about to get their driver's license, you having that conversation.
It's a responsibility.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, reach out to us at info@legacytoolkit.com. Talk to your doctor, consult with your estate attorney, or any other professional you think that can help you out.
Yes. But please have the conversation. Your family will thank you for it.
So let's circle back to our central question. What are your wishes for organ donation? And have you shared those wishes with your family?
This is a hard topic, but very important. Until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.